Indian's just fun. I mean, Indian's kind of like Harley. They're the gift that keeps on giving. And whereas we're about a month away from Harley doing their 2023 new bike announcements, I figured this was a good time to revisit Indian, being that they've went ahead and announced some of their 2023 new bikes. So yeah, let's get into this one. This is Bikes, Beards, and Brews. Let's kick that intro. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we kick this one off, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification. New videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Until it gets too cold, then we might go down to 2. You've been warned. Now let's get the other stuff out of the way. Want to save 10% on a Cardo communicator? Check my referral link down below. Want to support me in all my do-gooderness, like these cool guys here? Boom! Then you should check my coffee page down below. Also, today is the last day of the GoFundMe drive that I have going on. That link is also down below. 100% of the proceeds raised in that GoFundMe are to buy toys for kids in need in the Manchester, New Hampshire area. 100% of the proceeds raised. On top of that, I also add money. This has been a tough year. We all know this. So I mean, $1, $2, $5, whatever, it all adds up, and it like gets us to where we're trying to go. And where we're trying to go is to help some kids that may not have something under the tree this year without a little help from someone else. So that's where we're at. Nonetheless, today is the last day. So if you've been procrastinating, this is the time to do it. All right, let's jump into today's topic. And that is the Indian Scout and why the 2023 lineup just completely grinds my gears. Now here's the thing. This itty bitty teeny weeny little tiny motorcycle has always kind of grinded my gears, but I'm also very back and forth on it because honestly I think it's a decent looking bike. I really like the bobber version of this bike. But Indian has kind of turned into Harley, which is really, really funny because people who ride Indian are like, oh, Harley needs to catch up. And then there's Indian going, what's Harley doing? So we can do it too. It's just getting completely ridiculous. Fine. Indian, they're doing a lot more liquid cooled engines, so high five to them. But Harley's starting to catch up on that. Sooner or later, all bikes will just be homogenized and it doesn't matter, same brand. But here we are with the Scout currently. So what grinds my gears on this? Well, first and foremost, for 2023, there are 7 models of Scouts. And there does not need to be 7 models of Scouts. This is just over the top. Now, it was kind of funny because while doing some research on this video, I came across a couple different Indian dealerships who have videos and they're like, let us go through all the differences on the Indian Scout lineup so you can be educated. And literally, they were struggling. And these were people that planned to make this video and are trying to sell you the goddamn bike. Most of what I derived out of this was there's 2 different sized engines. There's the 60 and then there's the full Scout. Now, all the channels that I looked at never referred to the size of the full Scout. They kept saying there was the 60cc and the full. That's because the full is 69cc. It is 9 extra cubic inches. There is a difference in horsepower, not great. Like the 60, you get 78 horsepower. The 69, you get 100. Honestly, Indian, just make one engine. Cut the shit. Like, first and foremost, here's the first thing. You can eliminate the whole 60 line by just having one engine. Now, I know some of you will be like, oh, well, you know, the 60 line, it's for entry-level people and it makes the bike cheaper and more affordable. You know how you can also make the bike cheaper and more affordable? Not make 7 goddamn versions with barely any changes to them. And that's really what the Scout is. Like, each and every one is very, very slightly changed. Indian itself has a really bad habit of not doing big changes between like different models. They don't even really change the tins a lot of times. With the Scouts, at least there's the bobber and the full. I get that. But really, drop the 60s, just have one engine, and then you're making less of these, you're making less different variations, and you can bring down the price a little bit. Worried about the entry-level biker? Well, you guys really like doing that TFT screen, and that thing has different ride modes. Put that on every goddamn Scout and say, hey, keep this in rain mode until you're fairly well convinced you won't kill yourself every time you touch the throttle, moron. Now, the people who are actually looking to learn how to ride are going to do that. The people who are absolute idiots and they're just going to hammer on that throttle anyway aren't buying the 60. They went out and bought a 1000 RR or, you know, something along those lines from day one. They're like, I got this. So, you know, that is not even a good excuse. Saying the 60s are entry-level bikes are not a good excuse. It's absolutely moronic. So the thing is, the Scout Bobber 60 is the cheapest bike that they have in their lineup at $10K without anti-lock brakes. So the thing about this is you only have one option to keep it at $10K, and that's to keep it at metallic black. For those of you who don't understand the paint schemes of Indian, metallic black is Indian's version of Harley's vivid black. It's the most basic color they have, and that's what they're running with. As soon as you change that color, you have to have ABS, and the price goes up $1,000. So that 10 grand bike, you're only getting that 10 grand bike if you get the most stripped down, basic, you know, piece of crap possible. Now, some of you may be saying, well, that's great. I can get that 10K bike and I can build it as I want. That's the thing. Indian doesn't really have much for an aftermarket, so there's not a lot of third-party vendors building like or making cool stuff for them. And Indian themselves are not really releasing stuff that is worthwhile to buy. The fun part, while I was doing the research for this video, I went and I started trying to custom build an Indian Scout. And the funny thing is, most of the categories only had like 1 or 2 options. There was a few that had more, like handlebars or windshields, and seats. Aside from that though, everything was like 1 or 2 options. And then they had a coming soon section. The coming soon section just shows how much they're really trying to be like Harley. It's pretty hilarious. There are 2 things in the coming soon section. There is a tail bag. So, okay, you know, place to store stuff. And then the other thing is a toolkit. So they're selling you a toolkit to fix your broken ass bike and a place to store the shit when you're not fixing it. That is Harley 100% of the way. And Scouts have been out since 2015. When did they decide, like, you know, 7 years later, well, these things really need toolkits? That kind of makes me wonder if the quality is going downhill. If you're like 7 years in, you're like, Scouts could really use an onboard toolkit that they always have around. You never know when you have to fix this piece of shit. Like they didn't seem to worry about that the last 7 years, so I don't know, whatever. But this is just more and more of like Indian doing absolutely ridiculous stuff. So back to the differences between the 7. Again, while watching these videos, it was pretty hilarious. So they're like, well, you can tell a Scout 60 pretty easily because it only has an Indian badge on the tank. And then when it's a full Scout, it says Indian Scout. And then the more high-end one, the highest price one that they have goes up to 13K. And they're like, you could tell that one because we painted the Indian on the tank. What is that? Like, okay, so you get an Indian badge or an Indian Scout badge or a paint job. Again, you guys are going full on Harley. Good job for just completely like flushing this whole idea of being something better down the toilet. You are just absolutely screwing yourselves. And then another difference, they're like, all right, so if you've got the Scout 60, you can tell the heads on the motor, they're black. The full-size one, they're chrome. Like, personally, I prefer black, but I would like a bigger engine. You know what? I'm not gonna buy a Scout because I don't want a bunch of chrome on my engine. It's kind of annoying. What are you doing, Indian? Like, everything you are coming up with, all this new shit, it's just like these very sad, like, rip-offs and carbon copies and wannabe versions of Harley. And I know I've made fun of you before for being like just a photocopy, but you're really just kind of proving me right with like these multiple bikes that are pretty much the same. There's very small incremental changes that make no sense or reasoning whatsoever. You could put out 3 or 4 tops Indian Scouts and then just have parts that people can order and customize the bike. Customize the bike the way they want it to look. Not here's 7, pick one, and you better like it because there's shit out there for you to do to change it. Seriously, Indian, you grind my gears, you're on notice, knock it off. So some other like interesting stuff I saw when I was building my Scout was like they had a section where they were calling it like touring. Have you seen these bikes? They're like this big. Like hobbits would look at this bike and be like, I can't use that for touring, man. I'll be cramped. Like it's silly. It really is. It's silly what they're doing. And true story. So at one point in time, I was interested in buying the Challenger when it came out. I, like many other people, like that looks like a cool bike. I wouldn't, and you get the extra horsepower and all that stuff. Thing is, I like the color. They had 3 different versions of this bike. So it's like the Dark Horse, the regular, and then like the high-end one. The high-end I think was Limited. Limited only had chrome engine parts. My dogs are wrestling upstairs. Limited only had chrome parts, and then the Dark Horse had black parts. I wanted that. But I wanted the red that the Limited was using. And I reached out to Indian directly and I said, hey, these bikes have the exact same tins. Nothing is different about them. It's not like Harley where like, there's a couple different, like if you go through the Road Glides, for example, and you look at them, some of the tins are different because like they'll use different tail lights and stuff like that. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, these have the exact same tins. I really want a Dark Horse, but I want it in red. I will pay you extra if you take the red ones and put them on the Dark Horse and deliver it to like, this dealership. I will buy this bike. I will put down a down payment. I'll take care of all the stuff. They responded to me with, no, we don't do that. It's impossible for us to do that. You can talk to the dealer though and see if they have anyone in their network that'll paint the bike for you. Why do I want it painted? You have the red I want. All you have to do is take the red from production line A and move it to production line B. And they're like, nah, we can't figure that one out. And literally that stopped me from buying an Indian. And I'm kind of glad I did now. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the stuff they're doing yet. Maybe they'll get better, but not now. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, share this video with friends, share it with family. Once again, share it with that rich funkle who's got a whole bunch of money. He's like, man, I wish I could donate to someone that's doing a cool charity. Here I am. And I'll see you all on the flip side.